cells
for a while,
came from other creators. They were attracted to this creation because they wanted what's called a fast track in raising their vibrational level tremendously by taking part in this Earth experiment. Okay.
I see. So this is sort of an advanced class. What's so important to warrant this landing on Earth? And if it is important, why not next month? Why wait?
Well, because they have all these very, very sensitive instruments that are able to read us, and it's just not the right time. That we need to raise, as a human race, our vibrational level more to the point where they will be accepted, and it will not frighten everyone so much that people are killing themselves left and right, and think the world's
some of
coming
these
to an
other changes that you talked about earlier will take place over the next 4 to 5 years that will raise our vibrational level. Then, next question is: in all of our past lives, do we have the same family members? For example, mother, father, brothers, and sisters?
No. Basically, your soul cluster works with other soul clusters nearby, so to speak. And so perhaps someone that was your mother in one life will be your father in another life, or your best friend in another life. So everyone sort of switches. It's like a play where everyone acts out a different part each time the play changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, the next question is: do you know any species living in underground caverns beneath the Earth?
Theo,
I guess
I think
another way of
Gaia
saying, are we the only sentient races on Earth?
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to step on you.
No.
Gaia has told me that there are over 20-something sentient races living underneath the Earth, and most of them really don't want, or almost all of them don't want to have anything to do with the surface life. They're having their own lives in the interior of the Earth, and various different types of beings.
What, are you special or picked out for some reason? They want to know how many other people receive information as you do, and why do they reveal information to you and not to other people?
Well, as I've said, anyone can do this. You just have to go into that light alpha state, and you say, "I wish to speak to my guardian angel," and wait for an answer. So I teach this in my workshops. I take people through a guided meditation, and I allow them to ask questions of their own guardian angel. About 60% of the people will get something, and the other people at least are shown how they can do it, so they can practice after they leave. In my case, because I've had so many lives, I've been told I actually do this kind of work, or have done this kind of work in hundreds of lives. In fact, when I was starting to speak to Gaia, she kept saying, "Godspeed, Tom, and have a wonderful day." And I kept thinking, Godspeed, that's kind of an old saying. And finally, after she had said this a lot of times, I finally asked her one day, "Why do you say Godspeed?" And she said, "Oh, you've said that to me in other lives." So there you go.
You've used the Gaia in your conversation here several times, and I think I have an understanding of the term Gaia, but in terms of speaking to Gaia, I guess I'm not really up to speed on what you mean by that. If you could fill us in.
Well, Gaia is the soul of the Earth. Okay, she's Mother Earth. She's the soul that takes care of the Earth, just as there's a soul that takes care of the sun. And I talk to the soul of the sun. You can, all of the planets and all the suns in the universe are all ensouled. And the souls that ensoul these planets and suns, they just have different interests than our souls, okay? They enjoy ensouling a planet or a sun or whatever, that's their interest. It's just like someone wanting to be a scientist on Earth and another person wanting to be an artist. I mean, it's just different interests.
Mm. When people have deja vu, is that a mirror reflection of a past life, or?
In many cases, it can be, yes. Or it also can be a dream that most people don't record dreams. I record my dreams every single morning, okay? And so I'm more aware of my dreams than most people. But a lot of times you'll have a dream of something that's going to come up in your life, and then when it takes place, you say, gosh, I had that funny feeling I've been here before or something, and it may be a dream or it can be a past life.
I see. Here's a popular question. People want to know about other humanoid alien types. I mean, are there Asian, Black, Dutch, Nordic? I mean,
I haven't asked about too many of the humanoids. I've been told that there are humanoids that are half our size, which would be sort of like the Zetas or the Greys, and then there are humanoids that are 14 or 15 feet tall. And that even includes, like, I've asked about the reptilians because they were the ones that caused the original Star Wars, and they even go to that height. And I said, well, what do they look like, Antura? And he said, well, just look at all the reptiles on Earth, and you'll get a good idea of the different varieties of reptiles. So you can imagine. There's some pretty weird ones. But to go back to human, I've been told there are several species they found of cyclops, people with only one eye in the middle of the forehead. And Antura says, they even look a little weird to me, And the
he's
cyclops
seen a
go
lot more than we have.
From our size all the way up to 14 and 15 feet tall, too.
That brings to mind a lot of biblical and ancient writings talking about giants and Elohim coming to Earth and so forth. Do any of those represent actual encounters by aliens, as you understand it, with the human race?
Sure. We've been in contact with them, or they've been in contact with us, looking over our shoulders for, as I say, a couple of million years or more, and so they've been around in different sizes depending on what world they were coming from, and even on Antura's world, there's the amphibians race that are about 60 million that are in the ocean, but they have about a 10 or 12% land mass, and there are sentient beings that live on land. So they have both on their planet. So it just varies, from planet to planet.
I see. Is there a significance to a message that consistently has the same repetitive number sequence, for instance, 333 or 444 or 222, in a message from your guardian angel? Do you receive messages in code, I guess, is another way to ask that question. So,
okay. A lot of times that's just your guardian angel reminding you that it's there for you. They use numbers. And as an example, a lot of times when I was traveling on business, I would be in room number 23 or 104 or 302 or and if you add up those numbers, they all added up to 5. And that was just Theo's way of saying, "Hey, Tom, I'm here." This was long before, I ever really knew he was there.
Are you familiar with Philip Schneider, who was known as the man who killed 2 alien Greys? And if so, do you think was any credibility to his story? And supposedly he was murdered shortly after telling his story.
I've never heard of him. I'm sorry. I can't answer that.
As he...
I will mention, can I mention the Greys for a minute?
Go ahead.
The Greys, the Zetas, they... a past life of the Zetas. They were facing annihilation, so they came to Earth and they started abducting humans in order to create a hybrid Zeta human in order to save their race. And then the Federation of Planets stepped in, and they do have this Federation directive that was created after the Atlantis sank, that they would no longer allow anyone to have anything to do, to influence humans. And so they really kind of got on the Zetas, and those abductions have stopped. They're no longer taking place. And also people talk about the Planet X or Nibiru. That planet, for some reason, they claim that they're a member of the Federation, but Antura says they're not. They work with them, but again, they are also messed with us about 260,000 years ago or something, and they've been told to leave hands off of us. And planet Nibiru is way away from us. It's not coming into our solar system or anything like that, although we are going to discover one or two more planets.
So not to worry about the return of Nibiru right now.
Nope.
The Greys then have been portrayed as more of workers and robotic type artificial creations, but from what you've just said, apparently they are sentient beings themselves. It's not they may just appear that way to us. Is that correct?
That's correct. And they're present. In other words, this was the race from their past, and so now their present Zetas no longer do that. And so if we wind up seeing any, coming on any of the motherships, don't worry.
I see. Well, someone was concerned whether they were happy with us or upset with us, but I guess because of the abductions that have taken place, and perhaps
right.
They had some evil intent. But did you say that they're no longer allowed to do that? Exactly.
They were creating this Zeta human hybrid because they had gotten to the point where they were cloning, and when they were cloning the bodies, they were not being ensouled, and so they could tell their race was dying, and so they were. It was like panic, and so they searched the universe and found us and said, "Now there's a hardy stock," and decided to make a Zeta human hybrid.
I think a lot of our listeners think that someone else took over the contract, as the Greys are no longer doing that. So we'll get into that some other time. How many different types of angels exist? You've talked about Theo, and he being one of the oldest, I suppose. And
golden light beings.
I would assume there's some sort of hierarchy among angels, is there not?
Well, he says, first of all, you do have the Guardian Angels that are these golden light beings, and keep in mind these are all whole souls, but it all depends on their age. So, as an example, the angels that take care of all the the prayers of the world, he says they're younger souls, but they're eager. And that's the way he says. And they're all gaining by doing this work. And I asked him recently about, are archangels, do they vibrate at a higher level than you do? And he said no. And I said, well, what does? And he says, there are some beings that are called the assistants to the Creator. And he says these assistants do what the Creator asked them to do, and they vibrate at a much higher level than he does. So that there is kind of higher levels. He calls it a sort of an evolution of vibration or something.
This question, I believe, has to do with disclosure in some manner. They want to know if some of these planets, and I assume planets that have life on them, have been captured by our NASA Kepler satellite, and are they holding pictures in the exoplanet database that would show that?
I have no idea.
No.
So someone would have to send me an email, and I could ask in meditation.
All right. That's a good point to make there. If you'd like to contact Tom and ask some questions that he can consult with Theo about, Tom, why don't you give him your email address?
Well, I'll give him the website, and the website is www.thegentlewaybook.com, and on it you can click on Contact Me, and it will allow you to send a message, and that goes to my email address. I don't publish that publicly, just to keep all the spammers, out.
Right. We don't need no stinking spammers. Right.
But but as I recall, I think it's even on my newsletter. So you can go to my website, go to articles and news, start reading my weekly newsletter, because again, these are questions that come to me from all over the world to ask in meditation, and start at the newest one and work back, and you'll see every question you can imagine people are asking me on a weekly basis. And I think, and some people tell me that they have read every single one of the newsletters, and they reread them because there's so much information in it.
Mm. Well, good. Apparently,
and the
you
newsletters are free, by the way.
Oh, the good point to make. The newsletters are free. Apparently, you have not dispelled people's fears about the aliens. They want to know if there are any that might eat us.
Oh gosh! Again, these
There's
are
probably
gentle
something we eat
beings.
anything. So why not?
They don't even play games. We're going to introduce to the whole universe playing games, because playing games means you're competing with someone, and that means it's negative energy.
Wait, Tom. They didn't ask if they would play with their food. They said, would they eat human beings?
No. They, on Antura's planet, their big thing is to swim, but they don't have any games. The kids don't play any games. They just swim around. He calls them their little tadpoles.
Okay, folks, there's something he's not telling us. He won't answer whether they would eat human beings
They
or
don't
not.
eat human beings. The Antura's people are vegetarians.
Oh,
so
okay.
There you go.
Well, that's one planet down. So
that's one planet down. And on almost all the planets around, everyone's vegetarians. They don't eat their brethren, as they call them, because keep in mind, on other planets they can all talk to each other.
I see. Well, have you ever met, heard of, or communicated with any tall, brown, scaly types? Sounds
no,
like
you're getting into almost the reptilians, and again, I hope to meet a couple of the reptilians on the mothership. I'll say hello to them. I helped end the Star Wars, according to Theo, because I suggested that the reptilians be allowed to have souls that would have Earth lives, and that supposedly helped as part of the negotiations to end this Star Wars that had killed billions of beings, because the reptilians attacked these planets. They weren't a federation yet, and they did it out of greed and to try and control them. And this went on for thousands of years before they made peace.
This federation you're talking about sounds
200 planets. Yeah,
200 planets. And I take it we're not part of the Federation as yet.
We're going to be.
You're going to be. Okay.
Yeah, we're like their child. So
I think one of the things that people think about is whether our elite here, who are withholding disclosure from the people at large, are already in contact with ETs and have some sort of ongoing interaction with them. whether there's commerce or not, as one person wanted to know, or whether that may really just boil down to an exchange of information or working cooperation with them or whatever. Are you aware of any arrangements or that type of thing?
Well, the ETs have been in contact with most of the governments. It's my understanding. It was just decided that it would cause such a fear in the public. They made these decisions back in the 1940s, and ever since then they denied it, just simply because all these fundamentalist religions would have such a difficult time in accepting that, and people would really be fearful. They'd think, oh my gosh, these people have such amazing ships and go from one end of the universe to the other, and in a few minutes time, and we're nothing, and they're going to spoon feed us. They're not going to give us very much. They're going to give us little bitty things that will help us, but we have to do the major work of figuring out how to get to the stars ourselves. And Antura says that there's actually going to be a ship that will go off to the stars, thinking that will never return because they haven't learned how to use portals, and eventually one of the starships, those 17 starships in that 3400 era, will go and pick up the people. That will be a big story at that time.
Portals. We're talking Stargate now. Is that correct?
Yep.
Or
yep.
Something along the popular image of a portal, I guess, is something that we can travel through.
Yeah, an
go
energy,
from one end
an
of the
energy
galaxy
portal,
to another.
Not a physical portal.
It is not a physical portal.
Right. And Antura
so
says
this is
you
more
can't
the
get
type
from one part of the universe to the other. You have to portal hop. And he says it's like using Southwest Airlines. And he says, yes, we know about Southwest Airlines. We know about everything. And he says it's just like taking Southwest Airlines and hopping across the country. He says that's what you have to do when you go from one galaxy to the next to the next. You portal hop.
Let's see. Our questioner is persistent about the idea of commerce between ETs and human inhabitants. There can be all kinds of commerce, I suppose, again, but you're not aware of any ongoing... I know you said that the governments are in contact with them. Let me rephrase this.
I'm not familiar, but certainly they can send me that question, and I'll be happy to ask Antura.
Okay. I think that's another good one to send then. Folks should realize that the answers you're giving have all come from, your meditation sessions. You're not just accessing these answers as we go along here. These are questions you've probably been asked a number of times, and you've honestly said in a couple of cases that I don't know the answer to that. So if you have a question that we haven't gotten to this evening and you would like to contact Tom, I'd invite you to do so.
And actually, keep in mind, Ken, that the first time I've talked about all this information from Antura, other than being in my newsletter, was at your meeting yesterday. So
with EPIC, yes.
I'm just starting to get people that information.
Well, just an incredible number of questions have come in on the chat and email, and people have written things, and you've sort of... I can tell now that if you're doing the research and preparation for a book, that you probably got a hit on your hands already. So,
I only have half a book, so I need more questions from people. I kind of ran out of questions that I could think of.
I don't think you'll have any shortage of them after tonight's program. One question here that kind of intrigues me too, but I'm not... do you talk to saints? I mean, do you talk to other than your guardian angel? And have you had that where you talk to other souls?
I've talked to another creator type that's sort of like an assistant of the creator, Zosh, and he's the end time historian. And and he was actually the one that I got the idea for requesting benevolent outcomes from, but he channeled through another person, and I picked up on that idea because obviously since I'd done it in a past life, it rang a bell, and that's when I started doing it myself.
Tom, I just noticed we're out of time. So I'll tell you, I want to invite folks to join us in our chat room afterwards to continue this discussion. I'm Ken Cherry, your host this evening for EPIC Voyages. Our guest this evening has been Tom T. Moore. Check out his website, www.thegentlewaybook.com. Next week, our EPIC Voyages host will be EPIC Washington State Director James Clarkson and his guest Peter Davenport of the National UFO Reporting Center. So till next time, join us on epicvoyagers.com for details about our hosts, guests, scheduling, and join in on our newly added forum to continued discussion after tonight's program. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Please join us again next Monday evening for Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council's EPIC Voyages. I'm Roger Peacock for EPIC. Until next time.